yourself, because America orchestrated this harm starting in 1970. 1970, America decided they were going to change the term from Negro to Black American. Because from 1865 all the way up to 1970, America was still putting Negro on birth certificates. From 1865 all the way up to 1970, America was still putting Negro on marriage license. From 1865 all the way up to 1970, America was still putting Negro on death certificates. See how that works? So Negro ethnicity was recognized from 246 years of Negro slavery plus 105 years of Negro being put on birth certificates, marriage license, and death certificates. Because if America and those human beings who were walking around on two legs, if they were identified as Black American, I think they would have been explaining to the folks at the hospital, even though they probably would have had an argument, they would have been telling them before they took their child home from the hospital, I want Black American put on this birth certificate. No, hospital, I want African American put on this birth certificate. No, hospital, I want freedmen put on that birth certificate. No, hospital, I want ADOS put on that birth certificate. No, hospital, I want FBA put on that birth certificate. That did not happen until 1970, when America changed up and started putting Black or left it blank. That's how disrespectful America was to each one of those human beings that were born. They didn't care enough they cared so little, they left it blank. Or they put the term Black that they had made up. And then later on, they changed it to African American too. Both were made up. Because if they were not made up, slavery would have been called Black American slavery. If they were not made up, those 246 years of Negro slavery would have been called Black American slavery. If it wasn't made up, those 246 years would have been called African American slavery. If it wasn't made up, those 246 years would have been called freedmen's slavery. If it wasn't made up, those 246 years would have been called ADOS slavery. If it wasn't made up, those 246 years would have been called FBA slavery. And it wasn't documented. It wasn't recorded that way. And then the next 105 years, you had a whole 105 years after slavery for any of those terms to be put on documentation. And it wasn't done until 1970. You had a whole 105 years. So for all you folks who claim that the white man came up with the term that Negro means dead, Negro means something in Portuguese, Negro means something in Spanish, turns out all of you are wrong. Negro have a bloodline. Turns out all of you folks are wrong. Negro have a bloodline, and it's E1B1A. I would like to know what the bloodline is for Black American. What is the bloodline for African American? What is the bloodline for freedmen? What is the bloodline for ADOS? What is the bloodline for FBA? All of you adults who spend hours and hours on these Twitterland, YouTube, TikTok, Clubhouse, Fanbase, Facebook, all of these social media platforms, proudly saying I'm a Black American, an African American, a freedman, an ADOS, and an LP, I need for each of you to show proof of a bloodline. That's all you got to do. You got to go take a blood test. Go take a blood test. All of you go take a blood test, and then it has to be evaluated that either you originate from an original bloodline or you are going to establish a new one. It's not that complicated. It's no in between. You're either going to originate from an original bloodline or you're going to demand that America recognizes your new bloodline ethnicity. It's no in between. It's just that simple. So if you care to keep on identifying that way and you don't want it to harm your children and grandkids, then you should have no problem spending every waking moment demanding that your country recognizes your identity, that your country recognizes your birthright, that your country recognizes your ethnicity, that your country recognizes your national origin, that your country recognizes your nation. You should have no problem fighting for that every waking moment, instead of spending every waking moment caping for your enemy for voting. I think your birthright and your identity and your ethnicity takes priority over voting. Do I have it wrong? I would think for all you brain dead human beings that demanding that your country recognizes your identity, demanding that your country recognizes your birthright, demanding that your country recognizes your ethnicity, demanding that your country recognizes your national origin, demanding that your country recognizes your nation takes priority over voting. I would think so. But it's very questionable with the way you persons have run around here and embarrass yourself. I mean, you have downright embarrassed yourself telling your enemy in advance, 2 years in advance, that you couldn't wait to vote for them. That's how pitiful it is. You adults ran around here for well over 2 years telling your enemy, even before midterm. That's the crazy part. You couldn't even let midterm elections take place before you had to be gun-ho to tell your enemy, I can't wait to vote for you. Enemy, I can't wait to vote for you. So I'm looking so forward to voting for you that I want to tell you every chance I get, I'm going to shout it out loud, and I'm going to tell the whole world that I want to vote for you. I don't care that you oppress me. I don't care that you flood the country of my birthright with invaders. I don't care that my community is being locked up. I don't care that my community is being gunned down like animals. I don't care if you are aborting human beings in my community. I don't care if you are putting poison in my food. I'm still going to look forward to voting for you. I don't care about the oligarchy, OLIGARCHY. I clearly have not done my research to understand the control that the oligarchy have over the government that I am volunteering to participate as a voter. Well, newsflash, the oligarchy has been in control since 1981. And there's only 2 oligarchs in existence, Russia and America. They were the only 2 nations that could make the cut. That blows your mind. Out of all these nations, there's only 2 that made the cut. And that was Russia and America. That should tell you all you need to know. Well, America has been under the oligarchy system since 1981 up to the present day. There's only been 2 other times that America was operating under the oligarchy. The first time was during slavery. We clearly have done the research on slavery. The second time was during the Industrial Revolution. And now we under the third one. And none of you adults have any backbone to come up with a strategy to dismantle it. So you prefer to instead just keep on voting in it, and knowing darn well that voting only works for the persons who are in the 50% bracket and above. Voting don't work for those in the 50 and below bracket. Just so we very, very clear, voting only benefits those that are in the bracket above 50%. It finally dawned on me why these politicians can get away so easily with painting that narrative that your vote matters. It finally dawned on me why they are able to keep marching before the microphone and preaching that narrative election after election after election after election, one election after another. I had to wrestle with it, and it finally dawned on me. Voting really do matter for those in the bracket above 50%, and it impacts them. But those policies and legislation that get passed rarely filter down to the bottom of those persons in that bracket below 50%. Now, it may reach a few people, but it never impacts in a large enough mass to make a difference. And so the same recycle keeps happening. Year after year, decade after decade, the Congress people and the Senate people, they preach about passing policies that's going to impact those persons at the bottom. And they just keep getting worse and worse and worse and worse, year after year, decade after decade. They just keep on, but they keep on selling that lie to you people. They keep on selling that lie to you adults. It's just remarkable. Well, I finally was able to understand how they are able to get away with it. Because if you're being critical thinking and logical thinking, voting does work for those persons in the bracket above 50%. And especially it works for those at the top 10% and the top 20%. It most certainly worked for them because they have the money to pay those lobbyists, so those lobbyists can pad the pockets of the persons in the Congress and those persons in the Senate. And this happens from the local, state, and federal level. It's the same playbook. For all you persons who claim to be intelligent, I'm sure you have evaluated that. I'm sure most of you who have all of these college degrees, I know you have been able to evaluate that, because I'm not the smartest person. I mean, I really had to struggle in school. I was lucky to make a D. I really was. I was really lucky just to make a D. That was until I hit Black History, and I made a straight A. I made straight A's for the first time. They should have never let me take Black History. That's when I really figured out that I did struggle to learn certain things, but once I took that Black History and made straight A's, I realized that I had learning curves. I did have learning curves and learning struggles, but I could learn. And then I went into the military and excelled. Oh, they're going to challenge you to learn in there. They are definitely going to challenge you to learn in there. So my confidence level just kept rising. It just really just kept rising. I left those C's and D's in the dust. All those C's and D's that I struggled to make into the 11th grade, and then a year or two later, going into the military 11 days after graduation. And I mean, those folks in the military really challenge your ability to learn about your learning ability. I got to give it to them. I really do have to give it to them. They really put you to the test. You are going to learn about yourself. You're going to learn what your abilities are. And it's nothing to be afraid of. It's nothing to be ashamed of. You're going to learn your weaknesses, and you're going to learn your strengths. And it's okay. The world is not going to come to an end. You ain't got to be ashamed. If you have a learning struggle, then there's something else that God gave you that's special. It may not be in books. It may be something outside of books. It just may be a natural born gift that don't require any book learning. My mother explained that to me when I was real young. She explained that to me because I remember the day I came home and told her that my teacher called me slow. Oh yes, my mom was very, very, very upset. And seeing as how my mother made it very clear to me and my sisters and brothers that we went to school to report on the teachers. We came home and she interrogated us. We were in that classroom every day to report on what the teacher was doing to each of us and any of the other kids. So once we walked through the door, my mother would start interrogating us. So we clearly knew that our mother wanted us to go to school and learn, but she also wanted us to go there to report on each of the teachers. And so when we came home, we had to be interrogated. But anyway, I'm getting ready to go to sleep. I'm getting ready to go to sleep, and I want it to be clear that I will stop following all persons that do not recognize Negro ethnicity, Negro bloodline. Because all of you persons who are still identified as Black American, African American, Freedmen, ADOS, and FBA, you are helping America erase Negro. And I'm fed up with it. I'm fed up with the disrespect and the dishonor you are showing to the Negro ancestor sacrifice. I can't stand for it anymore. I may not have the power to force America to recognize Negro bloodline, but I do have the control to cut you persons off. I do have that, at least that little bit of control. I have a little bit of control to cut each of you off. I don't have to look at you on my social media platform. I don't have to see anything that you post. I ain't got to listen to you talk. I'm not going to tolerate that disrespect of the Negro ancestors and their sacrifice. Because all of us are benefiting from that 246 years. Each one of us living and breathing today, yesterday, and hopefully tomorrow have been benefiting from those 246 years. And I'm fed up of the blatant disrespect and dishonor that all of you persons show. You don't even mention the term Negro. Since the OMB removed Negro on the 28th of March, 2024, I bet half of you ain't lost no sleep over it. I bet half of you, or most of you, ain't lost 1 ounce of sleep over it. You do realize America washed down your dreams of reparations. Now, restitution is a different word. Restitution is Special Field Order 15. But all of you who got this hope and dream of reparations, it got washed down the drain on the 28th of March, 2024. So for all those people whose circle you've been running in, they should have explained that to you. Because Negro was the initial harm, Negro slavery. What y'all don't understand about that? Can y'all explain that to me? Did y'all not hear that the OMB removed Negro on the 28th of March, 2024? That very second, they removed your hope for reparations because Negro was Negro slavery was the initial harm. So if America removes the term Negro, the initial harm was not done to people called Black American. The initial harm was not done to persons called African American. The initial harm was not done to persons called freedmen. The initial harm was not done to people called ADOS. The initial harm was not done to people called LBA. America recorded it as Negro slavery. No matter how much that may upset most of you folks who may need a resuscitation machine, I would suggest you get a resuscitation machine and let it be standing by. Because no matter how bad, whether you like it or not, it was recorded, it's locked behind an archive. That documentation and that recorded history is locked behind an archive. And not one of us, most of us can't get to it. I don't know if some of us can, but most of us can't get to it. We're not going to get the key to unlock that archive of all that documentation. And America only made a contract with Negro Ancestors that was signed by General Sherman and President Lincoln, Special Field Order 15. Now, as far as all the harm that took place after Special Field Order 15 was rescinded, that has to be traced back to one of those descendants, one of those Negroes. You have to be one of those Negro descendants that were promised Special Field Order 15. And I think a lot of you persons don't have the paperwork that can trace that back. That's why you run around here preaching these other terms, because you clearly know that you're not willing to take a blood test and let it be established as to whether or not you belong to a Negro bloodline or do you belong to a new bloodline that need to be established. Most of you folks don't want to do that. But the rooster don't came home to roost. See, be careful what you ask for. Be darn careful what you ask for. All you persons who have been running around here claiming that you're standing on delineation, if you are standing on delineation, you should be taking a blood test to determine who all belong to that same bloodline. If you're being truthful. If you're just talking to hear yourself talk, that's a whole nother story. But you're going to have to put up or shut up. Each of you who've been preaching about delineation, you're going to have to go take that blood test. Because we are all not from the same bloodline. I know good and darn well I'm not from the same bloodline with most of you. I can feel it in my gut when I hear you talk. That's no confusion for me. I already know that. I can go to my grave with peace of mind that most of you that I have interacted with and talked to and have heard talk, we're not from the same bloodline. We don't have the same blood flowing through our body. Our blood is not going to match up. That we are part of this new bloodline that y'all call melanated. Well, if y'all are from a melanated bloodline, you need to go get it established. Don't you think that would make sense? If you are claiming to be from a new bloodline called melanated, I can't pronounce it too clearly. I'm going to try. For all you persons who I have been hearing for months and months and months saying that you are from a melanated bloodline, a new bloodline, then you need to go get it established. Don't you think it would make sense to do that? Don't you think your children and grandkids deserve that? Don't you think your children and grandkids deserve that much from you, adults? Instead of you sitting on these Twitter land talking all day, and claiming to be Black American, claiming to be African American, claiming to be freedmen, claiming to be ADOS, claiming to be FBA. But where is the blood proof? Where is the bloodline proof? If that is true, then you should be able to present bloodline proof that what is coming out your mouth is factual, not something made up. It's just that simple. Because me personally, I believe I have Negro blood in me, which is E1, B1, A, and my blood traces back to Negro land. See how that works? So each of you should want to establish what is the bloodline you belong to. Where do it trace back to? Do it trace back to Europe? Do it trace back to Asian? Do it trace back to Jamaica? Do it trace back to Nigerian? Where do your blood that's flowing through your body, where do it trace back to? Or do you need to establish a new bloodline because of the harm that was done? It's not complicated. It's not complicated. The evil of the harm that America done to another human being, from the very moment that America made another human being a slave, there will never be any evil on earth that can come close to matching that. There will never be any evil on earth that will come close to matching that. So for all you persons who really truly want to identify as Black American, then you have got to gather your blood tests and figure out what that blood, all those collective blood tests show. Do you have similarities there in your blood results? Do you need to establish and demand that America recognizes that collective bloodline as a new bloodline? That's the work that you're going to have to do. Otherwise, America is going to continue to allow the immigrants to get priority. They're going to continue to get their EBT cards. They're going to continue to get their rent vouchers. They're going to continue to get their medical care. They're going to continue to get their housing vouchers. They're going to continue to get their business loans. They're going to continue to collect Social Security. And while they are doing that, persons in your family and my family are going to die. Are they going to end up in prison? Are they going to end up dying a natural death? Are they going to end up dying because they cannot provide food, shelter, and clothing for themselves? Because America and the whole world is making it very clear. They're going to starve you out. They're going to flood you out. They're going to starve you out, and you are going to end up in the same predicament that the Palestinians are currently going through. That is what's going to happen. It's already spelled out. Unless you're dumb and slow, any human being can figure that much out by now. Okay, if you just turning a blind eye and a deaf ear, maybe you have not been tuned in at least a little bit to evaluate what's going on in Palestinian, to not to understand that the Jews are intending to do that to each of you. That's why that definition is on the OMB. Because when Israel gets done trying to wipe the Palestinians off the face of the earth, then they are going to redirect their attention on all of you persons who call yourself Black Americans, African Americans, freedmen, ADOS, and FBA, who do not have an identity, who do not have a birthright, who do not have an ethnicity, who do not have a national origin, who do not have a nation. The Jews and the Israel folks are going to focus all of their attention on you. My gut tells me they plan on deporting you. That's what I'm going to be frankly honest with you. For some reason, my Heavenly Father put that thought in my head. I don't know where it came from. I have to trust that my Heavenly Father put it there for a reason. My gut tells me that America and the OMB and the Jews are planning on deporting you. If they don't lock you up, if they don't put you in internment camps, if they don't flood you out, if they don't gun you down like an animal, they are going to deport your behind back to Africa. I think that's why that definition is on the OMB. It's not by coincidence. That's what my gut tells me, but my paperwork says Negro. I'm thankful for that. My paperwork says Negro. I don't know how much weight it's going to carry, but I can guarantee you, as long as I'm breathing, as long as the good Lord keep me breathing, I am a Negro. Negro blood is flowing through my body. Negro blood is keeping me alive. Negro, the Heavenly Father is keeping me alive. I don't have no black blood flowing through me. That don't exist. I don't have black blood flowing through my body. I have Negro blood flowing through my body, which is E1B1A. See how that works? It's quite simple. It's quite simple. And seeing as how I have devoted enough time to evaluate it critically and logically, I have no confusion. But I will warn all of you folks who are identifying as Black American, African American, Freedmen, ADOS, and FBA, you are playing with fire. If you're not careful, you are going to end up in the same predicament as the Palestinians. You're playing with fire. You should be spending every waking moment demanding your country recognize your identity. You should spend every waking moment demanding your country recognizes your birthright. You should spend every waking moment demanding your country recognizes your ethnicity, even if you have to establish a new one. That's what has to get done. I will spend less time caping for my enemy, because if the Republicans get in there, they're going to make sure most of what I have said on this broadcast is going to come true. Republicans are going to bring back they're going to institute permanent immunity. They're going to institute stop and frisk. They have already hired more racist police persons from these foreign countries. They weren't doing a good enough job by themselves. They were already racist Jim Crow police. So they said, we're going to bring in some reinforcements. We're going to hire the Latinos and the Mexicans and all these other nationalities. We're going to hire all of them on the police force